Austria, June 19th, 2020, early evening. A taxi is speeding from Vienna to Wrocław airport. Usually the trip would only take 35 minutes. But the taxi driver is not familiar with the route and misses the entrance to the airport. The airport is tiny. There's a tower, a few hangars, and a restaurant. A small business jet has been ready for takeoff since the afternoon. A Cessna Citation Mustang, model 510, flight number FTY5. The only thing missing is the passenger. The taxi finally gets there at 7:45 p.m. The two pilots are waiting just off the tarmac. Out of the car steps a well-dressed gentleman. Light blue jeans, white shirt, black leather jacket, and black sneakers. He pays for the flight in cash, €7,920, no receipt. At 8:03 p.m. precisely, the plane takes off. Said passenger is a man of many faces, even more fake passports, and close ties to foreign intelligence agencies. He is involved in countless shady deals, loves to play spy and agent, and indulges in a lavish lifestyle. He's also the key figure in the largest economic scandal in German history, and he has been on the run since that very evening at Wrocław airport.
Jan Marsalek.
Jan Marsalek.
Jan Marsalek.
He's missing.
He was accused of fraud.
Vanished without a trace.
Marsalek is wanted by German authorities and is believed to have fled to Russia.
So there is a massive fraud, and Jan Marsalek was involved in that.
What do we know of Marsalek's whereabouts?
Wirecard is founded in 1999. For a long time, the company is considered Germany's answer to Silicon Valley, a tech firm for online payments, essentially the German PayPal, but only for businesses. Initially, the startup focuses on processing payments for pornography and gambling companies, but the clientele quickly becomes more reputable. Over the next few years, Wirecard experiences a meteoric rise. In 2018, the company is larger than Deutsche Bank.
And eventually, in June 2020, it collapsed. It went straight from the DAX 30 to nothing.
Dan McCrum was the first person to uncover discrepancies in Wirecard's numbers. He's an investigative journalist for the Financial Times, and together with his team, he put together the decisive pieces to help authorities open an official fraud investigation. We've included links to McCrum's book, Money Men, and the Wirecard podcast by German media outlet SC in the description. On June 18th, 10:43 a.m., auditors from EY confirmed that Wirecard failed to provide receipts for €1.9 billion worth of assets. The money was supposed to be held in accounts in Asia.
Es kann derzeit nicht ausgeschlossen werden, dass die Wirecard AG in einem Betrugsfall erheblichen Ausmaßes zum Geschädigten geworden ist.
The very next day, June 19th, Markus Braun steps down as CEO. A few days later, June 22nd, Wirecard claims it is highly probable the missing €1.9 billion does not exist. The company files for insolvency on June 25th. And just like that, one of Germany's rare technology success stories has come to an inglorious end. Markus Braun is arrested on June 23rd. He is charged with misrepresentation, market manipulation, breach of trust, and commercial gang fraud amounting to billions of euros. He's not the only one wanted by the public prosecutor's office. The second alleged main culprit is Austrian citizen Jan Marsalek, a member of the Wirecard management board and largely responsible for their business in Asia. A massive trial on the case has been underway since December 22. In addition to ex-CEO Markus Braun, former chief accountant Stefan von Erfa, and key witness Oliver Bellenhaus are also in the dock. Until proven guilty, they're all protected by the presumption of innocence. Only Marsalek is not there when the trial starts. There has been no trace of him for almost 4 years. Marsalek is released with immediate effect on the very day EY discloses the balance sheet problems, June 18, 2020. Braun still asks him to travel to the Philippines to investigate the whereabouts of the missing €1.9 billion. On June 23, 2020, Marsalek lands at Manila Airport in the Philippines. The following day, he leaves Cebu Airport, some 800 kilometers south of the capital, and travels on to China. At least that's what the records from the Philippines Bureau of Immigration say. But something is off. Jan Marsalek can't be seen entering the country on airport surveillance cameras. Also, there are no flights from Cebu to China on his alleged day of departure. Apparently, immigration officers faked the data entries. It's an offense they are later officially charged with. So where is Marsalek? On the evening of June 18th, the day he is released from work, Marsalek goes to a restaurant in Munich called Il Sogno. Here he meets with two acquaintances from Austria. The first one is Martin Weiss, a former domestic intelligence agent. The second one is Thomas Schellenbacher, a former member of the Austrian National Council for right-wing populist party FPÖ. Marsalek tells them he urgently needs to go to the Philippines to sort out Wirecard's balance sheet trouble. His favorite route would be via Minsk, Belarus. He hands them his passport so they can book him a flight. The next day, June 19th, at 11:56 a.m., someone sends an email to the airport in Minsk. The sender is an employee at Minsk-based travel agency Planeta Grios. The mail itself informs airport staff that there will be a VIP guest flying in from Vienna. Attached is a diplomatic passport from the Caribbean state of Grenada. According to research conducted by German newspaper Süddeutsche Zeitung, the email and its attachment were later deleted by accident. Later that day, a small Cessna with Jan Marsalek on board takes off in Vienna and flies towards Belarus. Around 3 hours later, the plane touches down in Minsk. At passport control, Marsalek uses his real passport. He is already expected at the airport and picked up by a black Mercedes minibus with Belarusian license plates. He is taken to the Hampton Hotel on Tolstoy Street in Minsk, some 45 kilometers away. The authorities in Minsk do not know whether Marsalek ever left Belarus or where he might be. By the time the public prosecutor's office starts looking for him, Marsalek has a head start of several days. They raid one of his mansions in Munich, but what they find there only raises further questions. Before his escape, this is where Marsalek spends most of his time, at Prinzregentenstrasse 61, a chic villa used as something like a clubhouse for himself, his business associates, and close confidants. There is a high-end surveillance system and plans for a bug-proof chamber. Nobody ever really lived here. The building was partly used as office space, for example, by Martin Weiss, the former Austrian intelligence agent who helped Marsalek escape. But the house is also a regular meeting hub for other former intelligence agents, military personnel, and money launderers. Surrounded by Italian design furniture and expensive oil paintings, they mingle and talk business. Sometimes they also take their meetings to fancy restaurants, to Feinkos Käfer for business matters, and to Matsuhisa Munich for all things pleasure. In the villa, investigators find several expensive paintings and sculptures. There's even a figurine of Vladimir Putin on his desk. They also find a black combat uniform. Apparently, Marsalek has been wearing that gear in Palmyra in Syria in 2017, shortly after Syrian troops liberated the area from the so-called Islamic State. Russia supported the Syrian forces during the liberation. Looks like Marsalek wanted to experience something that normal people don't, venturing to an active war zone just for the sake of it.
When he gets there, he's showing the Russian troops the gear he's brought with him. He's got like this super Kevlar helmet, some sort of jacket which has a bulletproof vest built into it. And the troops say to him, "Jan, this is some really nice stuff you've got here. But if you go for a stroll out there wearing this, every sniper in the area is going to think you're the #1 VIP and they're going to shoot you dead." So he leaves it all in the hotel. And so there's this little bit of this, in English we say, all the gear and no idea.
Somehow, none of this really fits the image of a top-level board manager in Germany. And what's this villa all about? Why was it frequented by so many suspicious people? Investigators start to realize that the search for Marsalek will be much more challenging than they initially thought. They are dealing with a man who is ready to vanish into thin air at any time. Marsalek is alleged to have had connections to various intelligence agencies. Acquaintances says he liked to surround himself with active and former agents and spies. He himself seems to have been something of an amateur informant. Apparently, according to the Financial Times, Marsalek bragged to business partners that he had the plans for Russian nerve agent Novichok. That's the neurotoxin used in the attacks on Russian dissidents Sergei Skripal and Alexei Navalny. There are also leaked chat messages of him bragging about his contacts with the American CIA and the Israeli Mossad. Several leaked text messages suggest that he worked as an undercover informant for Austrian right-wing populist party, FPÖ. There are hints that Marsalek also worked as an informant for the Austrian Domestic Intelligence Agency under Martin Weiss. The Financial Times reported that he was planning to recruit his own squad of mercenary soldiers in Libya. The Austrian Ministry of Defense has in part confirmed this. Marsalek had already been using numerous aliases during his time at Wirecard. He logged into video calls as John Smith. During his escape, he texted confidants as Richard Dabrowski and Karim Ghasmi. But Marsalek has many other identities. These two pictures have been issued by the German Federal Criminal Police Office, BKA, Europol, and Interpol to track him down.
I've actually got his poster behind me. There's the wanted poster, which I think you can still see on train stations and the like in Germany.
But do you know about this one, or this one? Jan Marsalek has passports for many of his fake identities. He is said to have left Belarus under the name Max Maurer when he made his escape.
I think 7 was the number that I heard, as well as having a diplomatic passport, potentially from a country in the Caribbean. And that kind of fits with the picture of him as well. You know, he was comfortably multilingual. Went to the French school in Vienna, had a Czech father, spoke English perfectly.
Marsalek has been traveling quite a lot with his passports since 2010. He repeatedly traveled to Singapore and Dubai, where Wirecard had branch offices. He has also been to Budapest, Paris, Vienna, London, Mumbai, Nice, and Moscow. Marsalek is believed to have been to Russia over 60 times since 2010.
There are some instances where he sort of flies in one day and almost immediately flies out again. So he's clearly meeting people at the airport or close by. And that's a kind of odd thing to do.
In September 2020, shortly after his spectacular escape from Germany, Marsalek likely assumed the identity of an Orthodox Russian priest. German and Austrian news outlets later got a hold of this passport copy, issued in the name of Konstantin Byazov. There really is a priest with that same name in the Russian city of Lipetsk, southeast of Moscow. He bears a striking resemblance to the bold and bearded Marsalek. Their dates of birth are only a year apart. Marsalek must have assumed Byazov's identity on paper so he could go underground and travel. In 2022, another document leaked. It shows yet another fake passport, issued in the name of German Bajanov. Both documents offer a new and interesting lead to Marsalek's latest whereabouts and identity. Moscow. An Audi A8 pulls up. There's a man in the back seat sporting a red jacket, a shaved head, and a full beard. He has just returned from his winter vacation in Sochi. The car is closely followed by a Toyota Land Cruiser, carrying his bodyguards from the Secret Service. They're on their way to La Marais, a fancy restaurant in Moscow frequented by the likes of Vladimir Putin. The place is particularly famous for its fish, oysters, lobster, caviar, all freshly caught. After lunch, they return to the heavily guarded community of Mayendorf Gardens, located in Razdori, one of Russia's priciest residential areas. Here, Jan Marsalek resides in a stylish villa, just like he used to do in Munich. It's where the super rich have their mansions, and the Kremlin hosts its guests. Putin's estate is just around the corner. It looks like someone has changed cities and identities, but kept his lifestyle, the SC observes. This is the new life of Jan Marsalek. Well, probably.
We have to understand, of course, there is sort of mystery layered on mystery here, and so maybe everything that we hear or is reported isn't the complete truth.
The details about Marsalek's new life are largely drawn from Russian sources. Time and again, photos appear that are supposed to show him in his car or in some posh restaurant. The information is often impossible to verify independently. However, German legal authorities and officials worldwide are now certain that Marsalek has indeed disappeared to Moscow and that he has been living there for the last 3 years. In 2021, Moscow actually reached out to the German Federal Intelligence Service, BND, saying they wanted to talk.
So there was a moment when a meeting was offered by some part of the Russian Secret Service to their German equivalents. Would you like to come and meet Jan Marsalek? Talk to him, find out what was going on. And they turned him down, I think because they realized if there was photographs or videos taken of German secret agents secretly meeting Jan Marsalek, the bad guy who's disappeared, that would just fuel a lot of conspiracy theory and, would raise more questions. So they turned that down.
As of today, the German government has not provided any information on this particular event. In December 2023, a report by the Wall Street Journal shed new light on the case. All the intel collected by authorities worldwide seems to point to one conclusion. Jan Marsalek has indeed been a Russian spy for almost 10 years. Research conducted by Bellingcat indicates that he has been traveling to Moscow more and more frequently from 2014 on. Investigators believe that he has provided Moscow with sensitive information on Wirecard customers, including the BND and the BKA. The BKA is said to have used Wirecard service to process almost a third of its payments to undercover agents. Having access to those transfer data would allow you to indirectly trace the identity and whereabouts of German intelligence officers. Marsalek is also said to have supported the Russian paramilitary Wagner Group. He is believed to have illegally moved money for Russian spies to finance secret operations. This includes a group of Bulgarians who are said to have spied for Russia in the UK. After Dan McCrum first reported on financial irregularities in Wirecard's Singapore side of business in 2019, there were clear attempts to intimidate him. He and other journalists were observed and their cell phones tapped. McCrum suspects these schemes may have involved the Bulgarian gangsters.
And so one of these guys is alleged to have essentially run a company that helped you hack phones. And he helped Jan Marsalek, pretty sure at about the time he was trying to hack my phone and work out what I was doing, hack people's phones, find out their locations, steal their contacts, that sort of thing.
The UK's Crown Prosecution Service accuses Marsalek of giving orders to this group between 2020 and 2023. The group appears to have gathered intel to assist the Kremlin in kidnapping Russian targets. All of this is substantiated by new evidence in spring 2024. German news outlet Der Spiegel reports that British and Austrian prosecutors got their hands on thousands of telegram messages between Marsalek, the Bulgarians, and other contacts. According to the reports, one of those handymen was Augusto Ott, a former Austrian intelligence officer arrested earlier this year. Apparently, Marsalek instructed him to look up classified information on Kremlin enemies and filter the data to Russia. But it doesn't stop there. In 2022, Marsalek seems to have personally ensured the contraband of highly sensitive devices from Vienna to Moscow, cell phones of former high-ranking Austrian politicians, and a top-secret SINA laptop. SINA stands for Secure Internetwork Architecture, a crypto technology co-developed by German security personnel. Authorities and organizations worldwide use this technology to handle highly sensitive data. In one of his texts, Marsalek confirms the laptop has safely reached the Russian Secret Service, FSB. He also writes that a Russian handyman paid 20,000 euros in cash for it. Was Marsalek a much better spy than people thought, much more professional and experienced? Media reports from March 2024 claim his former girlfriend, Natalia Slabina, recruited him as early as 2014. Experts on the case think the Russian ex-model introduced Marsalek to Russian businessmen and undercover agent handlers. McCrum suspects, in return for all these espionage activities, Russia must have helped Marsalek escape.
I think if you're a country like Russia, you kind of have to advertise that you look after your guys, don't you? You can't leave them out in the cold or throw them to the wolves. Because why would people then work for you in the future?
If convicted in Germany, Marsalek faces up to 14 years in prison for financial fraud. That doesn't even include the alleged leaking of state secrets. But to put him away, prosecutors would first have to get their hands on him. The only tangible sign of life from Marsalek himself is an 8-page letter that reached German judicial authorities in July 2023. In that letter, Marsalek claims he is innocent. He says he has never been the perpetrator, but the victim of a major scheme. According to him, the real mastermind is Oliver Bellenhaus, Wirecard's former Dubai manager who had turned himself in to become the prosecution's crown witness on the case. The letter does not say anything about the whereabouts of Marsalek himself or the missing 1.9 billion euros. The court has deemed the letter practically useless in this case, but its mere existence does prove something. Marsalek's lawyer, Frank Eckstein, is in touch with his client. According to the Wall Street Journal, Marsalek could currently be in Dubai. Reporters believe that following the death of Prigozhin, Marsalek may be helping to rebuild the Wagner Group in Africa. The hunt for one of the world's most wanted men continues. Apart from the new developments we have seen, authorities are still in the dark. The Wirecard trial has been extended by almost a year.